you guys so much for coming back and, of course, following and liking and subscribing. We love to have you back. Drop a little comment, say hi to us. Where are you from? We love to hear all that good stuff. I love to hear travel stories. That's one of my favorite things. So, talking about, what we've been up to. What have you been up to, Miss Liza?
Well, lately I got my nails done.
Nice.
Yeah, I love getting my nails done. There's a lovely place called Delight Nails and Spa over in Orlando. My girl Ivy, she's really good. I love her. It takes a really long time to get a nail person that actually does the shape that you want and the color that you want. She reads my mind. And it took me forever to finally find someone that does everything that I want. And I'm like, oh, praise, praise. So I found her, Delight Nails and Spa. Ivy, hit her up for sure.
Nice.
But yeah, that's what I did this weekend.
Well, let's see. This weekend I went to Mead Gardens. So that was one of my first times I've actually been there. And I was surprised because I thought it was kind of small when I got out there. But then I realized there's actually a lot more. You just kind of have to find it. Okay. So you drive and you park and you think oh, it's just this little park. You go around once, you see the roses, you see the flowers, and you're like, okay. Mm-hmm. And then I started to realize, I'm like, oh, there's an amphitheater over there. So I walked over where the amphitheater was. It looked like there was a yoga class that just happened. Then I kept walking until I saw these kind of a weird archway, and then I went through there, and there was a statue garden, a little cool classic statue garden. Yeah, I had no idea it was that deep into there. I would say it was only about an hour or anything, but I think next time I'll bring a little picnic lunch, make it a little longer than that. I took my dog, so I think about an hour she had enough sniffing and chasing squirrels, but you can bring your dogs there. So yeah, that was something fun that I hadn't done before. What about you? What have you been up to?
Well, what I did usually when it gets nice and hot, I like to go to the beach. The beach is my favorite. Mm-hmm. I usually go to New Smyrna because it's not as crowded as Daytona. Mm-hmm. It doesn't cost much to get on there, but we usually will park in some free parking nearby and then just take our stuff over there. So far, everybody's being compliant. I know as it gets hotter, it might get worse. Mm-hmm. So I would say get a chance to go there now before it gets too crazy. But it's so much fun. I got to try out my cool cabana. This thing that I have. I know you're like what is that? This thing is amazing. So you can buy it online, and I bought one of the original versions. So it's smaller. It sets up like an umbrella, but it looks like a cabana. Ooh. Yeah, I know. It's what? So you have to anchor it down. You just get what I like to do is I get those gallon Ziploc bags, and I just fill them with sand and put them in the pockets in the bottom. And so it comes out. It has pockets at the top where you can put your things. You can I'll hang my JBL speaker up there and play music. That one.
You don't go to the beach. You're bougie at the beach.
You know what?
I'm just grab the swimsuit, grab the towel, let's go. You're no, I got my pop-up pool, cabana.
Yes, I have my music. Music.
The whole thing.
Awesome.
Food, wine.
Yes, we do have wine at the beach. So that's what I did. I had an absolute blast.
Well, speaking of wine, actually, that leads me into my local to-dos.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the Lake Ridge Winery, they actually do the Grape Stomp in June. Yeah. So look them up. I've actually gone a couple of times. Yes. They're doing it this year. It's super fun. You take off your shoes and you stomp around in grapes. And it's gross. And it's so much fun. But it's also gross.
You get to bring some wine.
They have wine tastings, free complimentary wine tastings at their winery. And they have a wine and cheese area that you can purchase to add on. And they also have extra entertainment as well on their property. When I went, it was free to get in.
Yes.
Okay. Now I don't know if that's the same this year. Mm-hmm. Be inspired to look it up. But also, June is heaven for foodies in Orlando. So I'm sure you might be familiar with it. The the Bite 30. Are you familiar at all?
A little bit.
Yeah. So bite30.com, you can go and look a little bit more on the participating restaurants in Orlando. But it's really cool because you go to the restaurants that are participating and you're like, hey, I want to do the Bite 30 menu. And they're like, cool. And it's a specific menu for that restaurant that showcases that restaurant the best.
Oh, nice.
And it highlights, so Bite 30 highlights the best foods and best chefs in all of Orlando.
Nice.
So you can look up the website, look at all of the restaurants, which is amazing because it has your homework right there for you.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't have to look up Google best restaurants in Orlando. It's right there.
Nice.
So that's really awesome. So no coupons. You just go in, say Bite 30 menu, and they'll hook you up.
Nice.
Also, if you take a photo of your dish or drink and hashtag, I think it's like Bite 30 and ABC Fine Wines or something like that, you get put into a drawing for a gift certificate to go to one of those restaurants.
Oh, nice.
Well,
Yeah. So I mean,
really cool.
hey, that's awesome. Free food. So I'm all about that.
I love it. Well, that's wonderful. June has a lot of awesome stuff happening. I definitely want to go to the beach with you.
Yes.
We'll talk about that later. I could use a little more tan.
Yes.
But June is actually not only one of my favorite months because of the beach and the wine and, you know, Father's Day, which is coming up,
Yes.
you know, but June is actually Cancer Survivor Awareness Month. So that's something I wanted to talk about a little bit, you know, while we're talking about our awareness months. This one in particular is very near and dear to my heart because I have lost close family members to cancer, and I know some, and I'm sure we all know some survivors. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, and I got a little notes because I thought this was really important for you guys here as well. So one of the things that I noticed when I was here in Jacksonville, I don't know if you got to see it, I actually had no idea. So it was almost like inspiring to me because I already knew, like, I wanted to talk about cancer survivors. But I passed by, there is a Cancer Survivors Park right here in Jacksonville. And yeah, it was really cool. So I just happened to drive by and like, it was like the, you know, the Muse said, look over here in this direction, you know, and there it was right there on the corner. And it has scale replicas of Jacksonville bridges. So it's really cool because you see all these like literally like my height, you know, 4 foot something, you know, like 2 scale bridges, and you can walk around. It actually has names of local survivors, and I believe it has digital. It's like digital too, so you can actually like go through a list and stuff, and it has inspirational quotes. So you know, and I think that's really important because you know, dealing with you know, myself having lost somebody, you know, I am like a survivor of like the family. And so you also kind of have, there's 2 different things. You have a cancer survivor, which is an amazing, incredible feat for those that are able to get through it and, you know, keep fighting and will probably continue to fight the rest of their lives. But you also have the family members as well. So sometimes you just really need to go and get away and, you know, clear your head and be inspired and, you know, have a place for yourself to honestly just sometimes even openly mourning and just sitting there and, you know, kind of meditating, you know, but for me, being able to go there and just kind of walk around in silence and, you know, think about my grandfather, it was a very cathartic moment, you know, so that's kind of something I want to talk about a little bit today. Because, you know, when you're a cancer survivor, you know, you won a battle in a sense, but, you know, you're constantly fighting that battle, you know, whether it's emotional or physical or, you know, spiritual in a sense, you know, you are always kind of fighting something in your head. Even though you have gone through it, there's always, unfortunately, for example, in the case of, you know, my grandfather, you know, he was in remission and then it came back. And, you know, you just don't know where to go from there. There's always that fear, of course, you know, so really I kind of want to talk a little bit today about, you know, how you can be a good support system for your friends or family that's going through this, because it is going to be a lifelong, battle that they're always kind of like dealing with, but how can you be there for them at the same time? Recognizing and validating their fears and concerns is one thing. I think a lot of people, especially people that have lost people to cancer, a good friend of mine lost his mother, and he said a lot of times for him, one of the things he doesn't like hearing is that, she fought really hard and, or she is in a better place, because sometimes that's not something that they want to hear. So opening up and just, being open to listening and even asking questions, tell me more about what you went through. How can I help? How can I be a good friend to you? Tell me about your family member, what was special about them? Because sometimes, just reliving those happy memories is just as important as, going through the trauma of the loss as well.
Yeah.
One of the things as well is I saw here that there is a place called cancer.net. So because of what's going on with COVID and everything, there are cancer survivor support groups. But not everybody, especially cancer survivors, are able and feel comfortable going out in public. Especially if you are in remission, there's a lot of people that are still staying safe. And I encourage that. And I validate that and say, hey, if you can't come, out, that's completely valid. And I understand, and, there's no hard feelings over that. But also making sure that they know, hey, I'm thinking about you and you're included, but if you can't come, totally get it. We understand this is a hard time. But how can they be supported when they can't physically go to meet up with other people? So cancer.net has it's an online support group that actually gives you a ton of options. I went there and it was amazing, like A to Z, whatever you're dealing with, whether or not it's you've lost somebody or you're going through it yourself, a chemo support group, a child cancer support group. There is something out there for literally everybody. So if you just need a place to go and listen to other people, and sometimes it's just scrolling through the internet and not even actively participating, but just being there to read about other people and kind of get that support is super, super important to survivors. Which is kind of what I wanted to talk about as well, celebrating the life, celebrating, how far they've come, and encouraging everybody, like how hard, we all know how hard, we know, but do we really know unless we've actually been through it? So understanding their concerns are completely valid, and making that room for them to be supported and to stay active, to not forget that, yes, your friends are going through something, but it doesn't mean that you should completely back off. I know it's hard for some people because you think like, well, I shouldn't bother them. I know they're going through something, and that's hard for us sometimes because we want to help, but then we also don't want to overstep our boundaries as well. Even just dropping a little hi, thinking about you can make all the difference. And hey, if you don't want me messaging you, I won't, but I want you to know I'm here. Asking people for consent before you, hey, is it okay if I hug you? Is it okay if I call you? Is it okay if I come and get you or come and visit you? Because sometimes people, especially now with COVID and everything else, they don't want to be touched and held and unexpected drop-bys, and we all want to do that. We all want to go bring our friends food and our family food, but maybe it's not the right time. So just being open and asking, how can I help? How can I stay active? And one of the ways you can stay active is, of course, volunteering. Volunteering is huge. Just doing your own research, going online, seeing how can I help. I talked a little bit about the Barber Fund in the past, but the Barber Fund is actually a local organization out of Orlando that helps people living with cancer. So if you are going through something, that's another resource, whether or not it's going through sometimes scrolling through the Instagram is just super inspiring because, they put beautiful, inspiring quotes. And sometimes just that alone helps me to kind of get through my day when I'm having a low moment and thinking about my family, So finding ways to, help the survivors understand how important they are to our lives and how important they are to the world and how important their stories are to the world. I think being willing to listen is the biggest thing, is to say, hey, you know, if you want to talk about it, I'm here to listen. You know, because I don't understand what you're going through doesn't mean that I can't be a good active listener and a good friend. There's also a couple hashtags going around for the awareness, and it is hashtag research saves lives. Yep. So if you literally have no idea what to do or how to help, and maybe you don't know somebody personally that's going through this, you can always donate to research because you know that is the way that that's just the way that we're gonna hopefully one day be able to beat cancer, is by getting the research, you know, and getting the funds to be able to research. And then of course hashtag celebrate survivorship, which I think is the bottom line, is that we need to be celebrating these lives. We need to be letting them know how important they are every single day, and any way we can support, from monetary to physical to just being a listener on the other end of a phone, is so important. And we just want to say, hey, thank you from all of us to all of you out there who have not only gone through losing somebody, but also going through it and a survivor right now. How much you all inspire us, because honestly, as much as I thought I knew about cancer survivors, I don't think I knew quite as much until I actually went online and did some research, which I encourage you to do as well. So, that being said, I want to hand it over to Miss Gabby.
Ooh, excitement. Well, my segment that I'm going to bring to you, lovely, fabulous ladies, and everyone else out there, is the topic of World Pride Month.
Yes.
If you were unaware, yes. Sure, it's Father's Day. That's exciting. But this is also a very huge month for those of us in the LGBTQ community, because this is when we celebrate our pride, our excitement of just being who we are. So I have some fun topics for y'all. So when we celebrate World Pride, it's usually, some people think, oh, it's just in one place. No. It was actually started in 2000, and it picks a new city every year. So the first one was in Rome. Of course it was. So the first one was in Rome in the year 2000. Other cities that it has been held in is London, Madrid, Jerusalem, and Toronto. Jerusalem, yeah, that's the one. I was like, yeah, yes. When I looked it up, I went, Jerusalem? Interesting. Awesome. You know, I was actually very excited for that. I was like, oh, that's fascinating. Yeah. So, one that was held in 2019 was obviously held in New York City. Why? Because this was the 50th anniversary of, as I learned today, the Stonewall Uprising. That is why. The Stonewall Uprising. So they did hold it in New York City. Some folks from the Barber Fund did go. One of the many talented women that are in our community, who is a huge advocate for LGBTQ, Blue Star, she actually went with some survivors of Pulse to that pride, specifically to that one, because it's a huge deal. And of course, you know, I am wearing my Marsha P. Johnson, I will say this, one of the mothers of the Stonewall Uprising. Right. One of the mothers. One that's usually the most prominently known. Of course, because of COVID, the 2021 has been canceled, but it will resume in 2021 in 2 different cities, in Copenhagen, Denmark, and Malmo, Sweden. Cool. Interesting.
Sweden.
Yes. And usually we always, everyone around the country, around the world celebrates this, and it's insane. I actually went to the Pride Parade in Boston 2 years ago. I went to the one in Boston. I'm going to tell you this right now. I have never been filled with so much pride, so much excitement, and so much adult beverages that I have at Boston Pride. It was amazing. So if you have anyone in that community, or you are someone in that community, please be so incredibly proud. You are here, and you are absolutely amazing. So that's what I have for y'all, ladies.
Wonderful.
That's exciting.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, we are going to take a break, and you guys be right back after this.
Maybach music. She a couple years younger, but she better than a motherfucker. Ass fatter than a motherfucker. She got her own, she don't need no ticket. She get it, yeah, she got it, so you know I'm gon' get it. She my NYPYT. She my NYPYT. She my NYPYT. She my pretty young thing, and I do anything for her.
I wanna love you, ay, pretty young thing. You need some loving from a real one. I wanna love you, ay, pretty young thing. Ay, you need some loving.
And welcome back to the Muse. Thank you so much for educating us about World Pride. That's super exciting. Well, I wanted to actually talk a little bit about one of my favorite queer icons. She is also a Mexican icon as well. She's a female feminist icon. She is so much more than the movie makes her out to be. That's all you really have to go on. But I want to talk a little bit about her story today, which is Frida Kahlo. So, one of the reasons why I chose Frida was not just because I'm such a huge fan of her artwork. She is actually one of the very first Mexican female artists to be featured at the Louvre in Paris. So, that was a huge her story moment.
Yeah.
But the more I started researching beyond what I knew as far as the artwork and the beauty that I see, some of those facts in the movie were definitely wrong. So kind of learning a little bit more about her, I thought, okay, I wanted to choose her because she is of Mexican descent. She's an artist. It really resonates with me. But because she's a queer icon as well, I thought, let me dig a little bit more into this. So I did not know that Frida Kahlo's name is actually Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo y Calderón. Yes. So her father is actually German. Didn't know that.
Nice.
And her mother's mestiza. So again, kind of like, hit home for me. I was like, wow, I didn't realize she was mixed. I didn't realize she was a mixed Latina. And so, she is what they are calling as a realist or a magical surrealist, magical realist as far as her paintings go. I'm sure you all have seen her. But one of the things that I didn't know, I knew that as a child she had polio. And so I knew that she started off very young, like associating like her pain with her just personality and as who she is. I also knew that she had a very bad accident as a young teenager. But I didn't realize that was when she really started to hone in her art skills because she was bedridden. A bus hit her, like back up. She was riding a bus, a school bus, and a car hit the bus. So most of the children were hurt. She was very, very badly hurt. There was a pole that actually like impaled the side of her. Her hip, her spine, everything was affected. She was bedridden for a while. She actually had dreams of becoming a doctor, which is crazy. So I'm like, wow, I picked a Native American doctor as my first female. I had no idea that connection was going to happen. That was when, once that accident happened and she was bedridden, that's when she realized she gave up the idea, wanting to become a doctor, and she had a easel attached to her bed so that she was able to hone in her art skills. So then, of course, you get this, a lot of these images that you see in her artwork are focused around her pain, because she really did find the pain and the beauty and, the artwork all kind of coming together. It sort of was a good and bad thing in her life because she started to associate, love and pain as one, which is definitely seen in her later works. So we're going to kind of breeze on through some of that history because I could go on and on for days. But of course, she ended up getting married, and her husband and her, they were married for pretty much the rest of her life. So her husband, the artist Diego, was much more popular at the time. He was also 20 years older than her, which I did not realize. Wow. And she was a young girl, but she knew from the moment she saw him working on a mural at her school, that's the man I'm going to marry. So, of course, she, once she got older, she did. She ended up getting her man, and it was all based on, she said, she worked so hard, and she found a muse, literal muse in Diego's paintings. So of course, you know, the two of them started painting together. He saw all the beauty that she did in her art. They get married. They had a very untraditional marriage. You know, they both had private affairs, and they, you know, it's kind of said in different research that I did that they knew about it. Some they didn't know, some they approved of, some they didn't approve of. But hey, that's what you get when you have a very passionate love.
Yes.
You know, and you're an artist, right? So one of the things I kind of want to touch on is the fact that, like, this is the time, this stuff like that didn't necessarily happen in the open. I mean, yeah, you're artists, you're a bohemian. But, you know, she was breaking a lot of barriers. She wasn't a traditional, you know, wife. And, you know, yes, at some point they thought, oh, well, this is just the wife of this famous artist. But then she slowly became famous herself. She rejected the traditional Victorian dresses, you know, all the frillies that her father made her wear. And at some point she was just like, no, I'm not wearing this. And she started donning the traditional, you know, Mexican regalia, the mestiza dresses. And in lots of her paintings, she paints herself dressed up in a men's suit. And she wore men's suits. She was that person that said, I'm wearing pants. You know, I don't have to conform to this identity of like these frilly dresses. She really identified with her Mexican culture, which is represented in the colors and the artwork, you know, and her beautiful flowers and everything that she wore. But also saying, like, I'm not going to also waste time with traditional beauty values. You know, her iconic unibrow and her upper lip hair, that's things that I work on. I mean, when I was a little girl and I, you know, started getting all of this up here, I would cry and beg my mother, please, please, until my mom got me that Sally bleach kit, you know, at like 12 years old, because I would cry so hard about, you know, boys making fun of my mustache. Now, looking back, I'm like, damn, Frida had a mustache and she was proud of it.
Yep.
You know, she didn't let the societal views of the time of feminism take her down, because she knew that she was beautiful on the inside. And she was beautiful on the outside. If you've ever seen real pictures of her, she's absolutely way more gorgeous than her paintings ever actually portray her to be. And then, of course, we get into her queer history. So, it is kind of a sort of one of those things where, like, didn't they, you know, nobody really knows the truth. But of course, one of her most famous affairs was with Miss Josephine Baker. And at the time they met at one of Josephine's shows afterwards, and they had a connection. Now, there's lots of different articles that I read that said yes, they had an affair. There was another one that said that they came out to each other as bisexual. So it was more of a female moment of being like, hey, I am this way, you are this way. And they became very good friends. So instead of calling it affairs, I heard another podcaster actually call it intimate moments. And I think that's a really important thing to clarify the two, because we really don't know. We really don't know what happened, but she had intimate moments and intimate relationships, which could mean a lot of different things. But we do, at some point, we do know that she did have very close relationships. She had a very close relationship, an intimate moment with Georgia O'Keeffe, who we all know Georgia O'Keeffe from her beautiful, Yanni-like paintings of flowers. And one of the other famous affairs that she did have was with, and I wanted to make sure that I got her name correct, Chavela Vargas. Now, Chavela Vargas was an amazing Mexican guitarist and singer. And it's rumored, of course, that they had an intimate affair. But when they eventually, of course, you know, she broke up with Diego, she got back with Diego. Once she finally went back to her husband, it was said that Chavela said that she was so in love with Frida that it did break her heart. And, you know, I do believe that those moments can absolutely happen. So, you know, Frida became, again, a Mexican icon. She became a feminist icon. And she became a queer icon because she did live her life fully. Unfortunately, she did have a very sad ending to her life. She was in pain the majority of her life. And shortly after her 47th birthday party, she made some comments about being ready to go and be free. And she was prescribed a lot of pain medication, and it is still unclear whether or not she took too many on purpose, or she took too many, which caused a pulmonary embolism, which caused eventually, of course, her death. Now, I hate to end her story on such a sad note, because she was such an amazing woman. and I inspire you to learn more about Frida Kahlo. Take a look at her beautiful work if you haven't actually seen it. But I will leave you with one of her most famous quotes, which again, inspire you. Go look at that woman's quotes. She has some amazing gems. But one of my favorite ones, because of course she was constantly living with this pain in her legs and her body, and her hips and everything. And one of her famous quotes is, "Feet, what do I need you for when I have wings to fly?" And I truly feel like that sometimes, like, wow, like we have these beautiful wings on us as women, and when do we ever actually recognize them? But Frida did. So be like Frida, recognize your wings and fly.
All right, for Femme Forum, we have summer looks. Yes, I know, right? So summer looks, we're thinking about flowy types of fabric. Yes, I love it. Yes, yes. We've also got, think literal beach prints. Those are coming back in a big way, like seahorses, things like that. Also, platform espadrilles, those shoes that are canvas on top, and they have like the what is the the twine? Twine around. Yeah, so those are coming back in a really big way. So be on the lookout for things like that. Also, yellow bags are coming back.
Really?
Yeah, like the big yellow bags. Yeah. So you're gonna be looking out for things like yellow bags. We've got pinks. Pinks are coming back in a big way, and monochromatic outfits as well. Yeah, so keep a lookout for everything style-wise for your summer looks, and feel-good prints. Those as well, like tie-dye colors. I don't know if we talked about, so yay, tie-dye! You can do something at home, DIY your own tie-dye. So, oh yeah. I also looked into the colors for 2021. The colors for this year are symbolizing hope. It's hope, unity, and stability, because God knows that we need it for this year, right? And those colors are yellow, illuminating yellow is what they call it, and ultimate gray. So yellows and grays are coming back. Keep a lookout for all those hot trends and topics. So yeah, that's what we've got for Femme Forum today, and that's our summer looks.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us on the Muse today. Go forward and be inspired. I'm Risa.
I'm Gabby.
I'm Liza May. Go like, follow, and subscribe EB Network. We are the Muse.